Welcome back to Fi Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had an opportunity to go and listen to Monday's episode because we restarted the Fi Crash Course. We're calling it the Fi Crash Course Remastered. Dominic, I went back and I listened to our original Fi Crash Course, and I think we started like that back at episode 7. It was rough to listen to.
Yeah, it was not great. We recently had a viewer tell us that, they're listening to every podcast from the beginning. They're starting with the Fi Crash Course OG edition. And I said, please just wait. Just wait. Just wait. It's a lot of great information in there, but it's a tough listen. It's an early Fi Guys version. But yeah, no, we've improved a lot since then. We've got much better at not talking over each other. I know that used to be a really big problem and rambling and talking about nothing. Now we're a lot better than we used to be. But I'm excited to get back into this Fi Crash Course. Today's podcast, it's a Friday episode. Usually we recap Monday's episode, but you have something a little bit special for us today, and I'm excited for it. And it's a little bit of a dangerous one for us as podcasters, because we got to be careful how we frame it. You want to get into what we're talking about today?
Yeah, of course. So my original idea was to go back and to talk about, because I've been doing this for a while now. We've been talking to people, figuring out their whys. I wanted to go through and tell people, these are some of the most common whys that I see. But as we discussed it off the podcast, my concern and your concern was we don't want to tell people this should be your why, or your why should fall within this realm, because someone's why might be completely different. And if there's one thing that we try to do at the podcast, is we never try to prescribe. We never try to tell people this is what you have to do in order to be financially independent, to be good with money, to be good with anything. So instead of doing why, or what people's why for Fi is, we're going to do what achieving or what's going for financial independence has been able to achieve for people. What's the reason or the purpose behind doing it for them that they've allowed them to maybe open up something that they didn't have before while they're on the standard path. How's that sound?
Sounds interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm excited to get into it.
So the first one I want to talk about is people pursue financial independence because they want the freedom to choose. Or when they achieve financial independence, they finally have the freedom to choose. And like we talked about on Monday's podcast, that means that work becomes optional, not required. So financial independence gives people the power to say yes or no to opportunities based on their interest, not on necessity. Because too many of us, we say yes to a job, no to a job, and it's all based off, I need this. And it's very difficult to come to a job from a place of power, to be like, I want this job because it aligns with my life, it aligns with my values, aligns with the time frame, whatever, rather than I have to do this because if I don't do it, then I can't pay for my bills next month and we lose the house. So people that pursue financial independence with the thought of, I want to have the freedom to choose, they get to choose how they want to spend their time, whether that's on their passion projects, creative pursuits, or simply just to rest and relax.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I think the freedom to choose might be one of the more popular ones, hence why it was number one, right? Everybody wants that freedom of choice. I mean, it's the American way, the freedom to do whatever you want, be whatever you want, to not get a 2% tax on your tea imports. Totally understandable. You can't have taxation without proper representation. That being said, everybody loves the freedom and the ability to do what they want by what they want to do, right? One of the things that we're trying to get around here is to give you some ideas on what other people are doing. Like Chris was saying, just trying to give you some ideas on what other people are doing and what fuel them. Take it for what it is, but continue the search, right? Use this as a checklist, maybe. Like, do I want that? Sure. Maybe not. Why do I want that? These are surface level. Make sure to go 10 layers deep as well. So while this might inspire you, like, yeah, you know what? This is my why. Freedom to choice. Right? Come to that conclusion on your own. I know we're giving you kind of a roadmap a little bit, but we still want you to continue to dig deeper because this is surface level stuff. And the real work is inside. And we can't do that for you. You got to do that on your own.
Beautifully said, and a very important point to make. So thank you for that. The next thing that I found that a lot of people, when they finally get to achieve financial independence or when they're on the pursuit of financial independence, is that it gives them more times with their loved ones. So what I found is that financial independence allows people to be present with their families and their friends, whether that might be attending school plays, being there during tough times, or just eating dinner together regularly. Parents often pursue financial independence. The reason I'm pursued financial independence is to be more involved in their kids' lives. And for me, I think that's the most important thing. But that's just my thing. If you sit there and you're like, I have kids and I don't really want to be present in their life, hey, that's cool. That's your thing. I would say, like, why did you have kids? But like, if that's the goal, then I get it. So that's one of the nice things about pursuing financial independence. It gives you more time. So again, don't take this as what you have to do, but say, oh, that's the reason that people do it. So is that a reason that I might want to do it?
And using this as a great example, this is actually a perfect one as an example, right? Where it's surface level, right? This is going to be surface level. But for you, there's a deeper reason, there's a deeper meaning. And without, I don't want you to just divulge all the deepest, darkest secrets of Chris Monzon, right? But could you just give us an example, like how you got to that point to kind of inspire others to like, not just take this for like, well, yeah, I want to spend more time with my loved ones. Of course. It's like a lot of these on the list are, of course, they're of course. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to spend more time with their family? I guess, I say, who wouldn't want that, right? Depends on your family. Who wouldn't want more freedom of choice, right? All of these are like, yeah, of course. But why did this one stick out to you, Chris? Why did you choose this one? What was like the deeper meaning with this one to help you find your why?
Yeah, for me is I grew up with in a military family. So my dad was a Marine, my mom was in the Army. So growing up, my sister and I, we were raised by our grandparents a lot. And looking back, there was a lot of times that I didn't. My mom, she eventually took a step back from being in the Army, and she was kind of a stay-at-home mom, but she also had to work. But there was a lot of time when I was growing up that I didn't have my dad present. He was off doing things. There was times where he would deploy for an entire year to give me and my sister kind of a normal childhood. So we got to stay in one home, which was a blessing, but also we didn't have our father. So there's always a trade-off in life. You can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. So for me, that was something that I didn't want to repeat. I wanted to be there present in my future kids' lives every single day, especially because my study of psychology found that the most important age when that neuroplasticity is really setting in is usually ages 0 to like 7 years old. That's kind of the critical period. So for me, I wanted to have them stability, having there's someone there that loved them. Not that my grandparents did love me, not that my parents didn't love me, but someone who was always there. Because too many times nowadays, you have to say, well, I guess you have to drop off at grandma's, grandpa's, have to pay for a sitter or something like that. And while all those people might love your kids, they're never going to love your kids as much as you love your kids.
I love that. And that's what we're talking about, right? That's the deeper why in regards to what we're talking about, right? That's not surface level. That's 10 layers deep. And I love that. I think that's what's so important about this is the fact that, this is something that is relatable for everybody, right?
Next reason that I find that people often want to pursue financial independence is because they think about something larger than themselves. They want to make a bigger impact on the world. So what I found is that many people pursue financial independence, not for themselves, but to give back to the community, give back to society, whether that be through volunteering, mentoring, starting a nonprofit, or something like starting a podcast and trying to tell as many people about financial independence so that they can also go out there and pursue what matters most to them. People supporting causes that they care about, with money no longer being a barrier so they can focus on their purpose over a paycheck.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's so important, especially in today's society. A lot of people need help. A lot of people need mentors. And it's great. Once you have a lot of wonderful life experience, a lot of great knowledge, it's important to share that and get back to the community, to the people who need it the most. And it's fun to start a podcast. Let's be honest. It's so much fun. Okay, so making a bigger impact. That one, I could see some people relating to, but I think the first two are like S+ tier. That's the top of the top. But what do we got for this next one, Chris?
The next one was something that was really important to me as well, and I found has been pretty important to a lot of people, and that's peace of mind. For some people that maybe grew up with a bit of insecurity, financial insecurity, that peace of mind is something that's really important because too often do we go through life concerned about what happens when the next shoe drops, what happens when this happens, what happens if. And if you're always living in that place of fear, that place of scarcity, it's really hard to get out of it. So sometimes financial independence can help to reduce that financial stress, not take it away, but help reduce it so that you have the ability to sleep better at night, knowing that you're at least a bit more secure than people on the standard path is. It provides resilience, so you're better prepared to handle emergencies, job loss, or medical issues. Because as we know, the average American, unfortunately, can't deal with a $400 surprise, whether that be a blown tire, kids get sick, something, their water main breaks. People pursuing financial dependence for the first time in their life might be able to be like, all right, tire blew out. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to go over to Costco or wherever I go, get a retiree place, and that's completely fine. Or someone on the lower rung, someone who's not pursuing financial independence, that tire blowout, that increase in egg prices, that might be the thing that sets them over the edge.
There's nothing quite like peace of mind. So I kind of relate with that one a lot. I'm really big on peace of mind. That one really, to be fair, to be honest, I think every single one that we've hit has been like, I align with that for sure. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, right? A lot of these you're going to be like, yeah, of course. Duh. Yeah, same. Like me too. But you just got to pick one and dig deep and see if you hit some diamonds. And if maybe there's not a strong enough why in, making a bigger impact or peace of mind, well then let's dig a little deeper. Let's go over to freedom of choice. Let's go over to the loved ones one, and let's dig a little bit. Let's continue asking those why questions and make sure to go 10 levels deep, guys. Make sure to go 10 levels deep. Yep. So let's continue. We got a few more left before we get on to our viewer mailbag.
Yep. So the next one that I found is, this one's not as common, but when someone says it, it always lights me up. And that's a space to grow. People who choose to try to pursue financial independence, it gives them the freedom to explore their hobbies, to maybe travel, or to start a business without worrying about the immediate income. Because oftentimes businesses, they don't make money pretty quickly, despite all the stories you hear on TikTok. But this is the more important part, is that it opens room for personal development, lifelong learning, and the ability to reinvent yourself. And that ability to explore yourself, to know your why, to learn more about yourself, allows you the ability to go out there and maybe help other people. So as you can maybe see, some of these, if not all of these, tie in together.
And maybe that's one of the things that's so interesting about this journey, is how many things tie in together. Is it similar to like the that Miyamoto Musashi quotes, like once you learn the way broadly, you can you start to see it in every walk of life. Everything is connected. I'm feeling very zen right now. Very, very zen. Like everything is connecting. Everything is, the deeper you go into the why questions, you realize it's all coming from the same river. So I kind of like that. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah. Let's continue. Let's keep going. I'm loving this.
One of the ones that I found, and this comes from people who maybe have had tragedy in their life, it's breaking the cycle. So there are some families that I've worked with who just want to change the financial trajectory for their families. Maybe that's breaking generational poverty or that scarcity mindset that I know all too well, and give their children a stronger starting point than they had in their life. Because I've always said that most people go through life hoping that their children's lives will be better than their lives. That's kind of the goal, right? To make sure that your kids have a better starting point, that they live a better life than you do. And we're always on this upward trajectory where we're trying to make everyone's life a little bit better, mainly for ourselves, selfishly for our kids, but a rising tide lifts all boats. So even if you're trying to just make your kids' life better, by definition, you're trying to make everyone else's life better too. Because you just can't say like, I just want my kids to be safe and we're going to just destroy the rest of the world. But as long as my kids have money, that's all that matters. Because you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You need to be able to think long-term. And what's best for your kids might not be immediate, but what's best for them in the long term, what's best for society, what's best for everything. So that breaking the cycle, I think is really cool. Because when you're focused on the here and now, making money right now, you often have to sacrifice the future for that.
That's a really, I think it's a really powerful one. I like this one specifically because it makes it bigger than just yourself, right? It's not just putting your family on your back, but it's putting their family and the family that's family. It's a generational. And I really like that. I really admire that. And I find that that's a very powerful story that you can tell yourself when you are in a situation you weren't raised very well. Maybe you missed having family there. Maybe you didn't grow up with a lot of money. Maybe where you lived was dangerous, crime-ridden, I love those stories. The one who made it out and then saved everyone else. I love those stuff. I love those stories. And I think that's a powerful one. That's a real powerful one if that one is yours. And I don't think you have to dig very deep to find the why on that one, if that is your story.
Yeah. And this is,
I think we got one more.
This
correct?
is our final one that I found, and it's a little bit different. Okay. Most people would say it's living with purpose, but I'm going to change it to say it's living on purpose. Too many people go through life just existing, habitually reacting to whatever's happening. But when you pursue financial independence, it gives you the space to design a life that aligns with your values. And whether that might be slower living, travel, creativity, or creating a beggar community. The final one that I found, it's living on purpose. And I know you might hear that and say, don't you mean living with purpose? But I actually don't. What I find is that most people go through life just kind of existing, habitually reacting to everything and never actually saying, what is it that I want? So by giving the space with financial independence to actually look at themselves, people have the ability to design a life that actually aligns with their values. Whether that means slowing down with their living, traveling, creating, or even creating a community. It allows people to let them redefine what success means on their own terms. Because most people go through life saying that success is more money in the bank. That's their purpose. But by living on purpose, it means that you're living with the right intentions, living with the right values, living in alignment with them, on them.
I think that's such an interesting topic, living on purpose. I think that's something I'm going to have to sit and stew with. Maybe I'll come back on Monday and have some thoughts on that. But I think that's very interesting. And I hope that maybe the listener, right, you thought about one of these, you really connected with one of these. You're like, hey, I'm going to attach myself to this in a little bit, right? And then I'm going to dig down deeper and see if I can find something, see if I can find a strong why that connects with this one, right? And there's way more other options than these ones. There's way more, right? But these are just ideas. These are just ideas, the most common ones for finding your why. But remember, this is all just surface level. You got to dig deeper now and really question why. Go 10 levels deep to really find that. Because remember, the stronger the why, the easier the how. Right? We know that the struggles, the pain, and the adversity, they're coming. I hate to break it to you. They're on their way, right? Just check Google Maps. They're 20 minutes out, right? Maybe not 20 minutes, but they're coming. And it'll be so much easier once you have a stronger why. So make sure that you build a honest and strong why that you can truthfully connect with. But that is going to be our recap for this episode. We are not done yet, though. Not even close. We are going to be moving on to our next segment. This is called our 5 Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. So in today's episode, we got a good one. So if you are new here, this is the part of the podcast where someone writes into us and we try and help them out. We try and kind of give our advice, give our worldly advice. Sometimes it's about finance, sometimes it's about relationships, but it's usually about finance. So let's get right into it. This week's letterhead title is called I Need Your Guidance for This Inheritance. I would love to use it wisely. Very nice. Maybe some of you are coming up and you might have an inheritance coming your way if you've been a good son or daughter. And so this could help you. So we'll see. Howdy, Chris. Howdy, Dom. Howdy. I am 31-year-old. I'm a 31-year-old listener, and I just received $12,500 in inheritance, and I am incredibly grateful for it. But I want to make sure I use it wisely and intentionally. I'd really appreciate your input on how to make the most out of this opportunity. Here's a snapshot of my current financial situation. Let's get into it. Income and living. I make $55,000 a year. I'm currently living with roommates, but one of my biggest financial goals is to eventually move out to my own place. Nice. That was a good goal. Current assets, about $1,000 in checking, $11,000 in savings with a 3.5% APY, which I contribute $675 monthly to. A 401k, $36,000, solid. And I contribute 10%, $458 per paycheck. Nice. Investments at Vanguard as well. And has the detailed stocks, but I don't need to get into that. Just know we'll say it's around $3,500. Now let's get on to the debt. Credit card consolidation loan, $4,200. Bank of America, $1,500. Care credit, $2,100, and monthly payments of $233. Note, this one is on a repayment plan, not affecting my credit score, which is currently at 780. That is very high. Congratulations. So that's where I stand. I've done a lot of hard work to get here, and I'm proud of the progress I've made. But also, I know that receiving a lump sum like this can either be a stepping stone or a missed opportunity. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what to prioritize: investing more, paying down debt, saving for the future housing, or something else. Thanks for creating a space where people like me can ask these questions without judgment. I truly appreciate it. From cash came fast, will it last? I have my inheritance in hand, but now I need a plan that'll stand. I like that. Well, congratulations on working hard and making something good out of yourself. This is an exciting time. Yeah, this is definitely an exciting time. So, Chris, what do you think? What's the big picture here? What are we thinking?
I want to make sure that I note that there's also a student loan in here that I think you might have missed. That's around $6,000 and that's currently in forbearance. So just want to make sure that that's put in there. So first off, I want to say congratulations on the inheritance, and I'm sorry for your loss. Unfortunately, for someone to receive inheritance means someone had to pass away. So I do apologize for that. But I do want to say, when it comes to your finances, well done. It really sounds like you have some pretty good and solid financial habits already, because it sounds like you're contributing to retirement, you're contributing to saving monthly, you're already investing regularly, and you're staying on top of debt, which is huge. For a 31-year-old, you sound like you're way ahead of the game. So what that means is that this inheritance is an opportunity, not a fix. You're not in a crisis, which means you get to have intention and strategy behind what you do with this money, which is way better than what most people that write into us. Most people say, hey, I got a $12,000 inheritance. I'm $95,000 in debt. How can I make these two things work? And when that happens, unfortunately, the math isn't mathing. So luckily for you, you're not in that situation. So what I would do is, it sounds like you already have an emergency fund. I think you said it's around $11,000. Now, obviously, I don't know what your expenses are, but at $11,000, I'm going to assume that's probably 3 months, maybe 4 months of savings. So I don't know what kind of job you have. I don't know if there's anyone that depends on you in any way, shape, or form. I don't know how quickly you are rehirable. But especially in this current political climate, current economic climate, I would say for many people, going ahead and topping off that emergency fund to be at more 3 to 6 months of bare bone expenses might be a good idea. So maybe we can park maybe $1,000 or $2,000 to that to extend out your one way just a little bit more. And if you can put more, that's wonderful. This is a big thing that I get a lot of questions on. Chris, if I have an emergency fund, can I also kind of use it as a house fund or a future goal fund? And I always say personal finance is personal. So you can do whatever you want. But since the biggest emotional goal you have is moving out on your own, maybe you remark some of the money over 4 months or 5 months or 6 months as your housing goal. You can call it like your freedom fund or your first apartment fund. And you can label it like, this is my money for that. So maybe we could set a target. So maybe it could be 1 month of 1 month rent and a deposit. And then we can have like a 1 or 2 month buffer. So that would probably be, I don't know, $5,000, $7,000, depending on what area you're in. I have zero idea where you are. So it makes it hard for me to make a determination. But you have the money to move that already, which is pretty cool because you already have quite a bit of savings. So it sounds like you're already setting yourself up for a pretty good situation. The one thing that does concern me is the credit cards. Now, I know in your letter, Dominic didn't really touch on this, but you have 2 cards that have very low APRs. Like, I don't know if it's an introductory or you did a balance transfer for a 0 APR. My only concern is I don't know how long that's been going for. And I know with a lot of the 0 APR cards, and this is very important, if you don't pay them off in full by the time that 0 APR ends, some of the credit cards will retroactively apply the standard fee or the standard APR to the entirety of the loan, of what's remaining. So that could be huge. I don't know. Sometimes it ends at 12 months, sometimes it ends at 18 months, but you need to be aware of that. If it was me and I have credit card debt, for me, that's a hair on fire situation because it doesn't matter how well your returns are in investing. If you have a credit card that's 15, 20, 25, 30% guaranteed interest, there's a very little chance that you're going to be able to guarantee. There's really no chance you're able to guarantee that I can be that in an investment. So those are the type of things that it's typically best to just take. I think you said you only have like $3 or $4 in credit card debt, $4,000. You take a third of the money that you got, throw it at the credit card debt, and you're done. The student loans, you said your APR is only at 3.67 or 76%. So I think that's super reasonable. There's no urgency there. And I would say that inheritance might be better used to have a bit of more of an emergency fund and to put closer towards the goal of moving out of the home and moving out on your own. But only you can make that determination. But it sounds like you have a stable enough income to just continue paying down that loan. You said it's only like $6,000, so not a huge issue.
Yeah, not crazy.
And the biggest thing is you're already investing, which is amazing. So that shows a lot of discipline. And you have a solid net worth with very low debt. So what I would do is maybe consider boosting some of your investments slightly and reduce how much money you're putting towards savings. Because this inheritance can be a very great boost for you too. You're 31 years old. You can get onto a path to coast financial independence where maybe you no longer have to save ever again for your retirement and you know you're going to be good. And the nice thing about that is now all you have to do is cover your cost of living, cover the right here and now, and not have to worry about the future. That is such a huge load off of people's backs where most people go through life hoping that if I reach 65 or 75 or whatever, the government will just magically give me money for the rest of my life and I'll be able to make it. That sounds well and good. And Social Security will most likely still be there for our generation when we get there. But I believe it's going to be dramatically cut. And since pensions are gone, you really only have to depend on yourself. How much money you save for yourself in your retirement accounts, how much money you save in your savings, and how much money you can hope for with Social Security. But I would much rather take control of what I can control, which is my savings rate, how much I have for investments, rather than hoping that the government's going to come and save me, because we don't have that guaranteed. So if it was me and I had $12,500, and again, this is just me, I would take around $1,000 and I would add it to my emergency fund. Try to get maybe $2,000. Try to increase that by another month. I would pay off the loans, the credit card loans, which is around $4,000. That would just be done. I would then do some long-term investing, maybe take another 1,000 or 2,000 and put that into your long-term investments. The rest of it, sorry, before I did that, I would do a treat yourself. I don't know who you lost, but I would take $500 to $1,000 and just go have fun. Buy something you've been waiting for, go on a little trip. And then the rest of it, I'm putting that towards my first apartment fund, towards my get out of here fund, to be able to live on my own. And if God forbid something ever comes up and you have to tap into that money, that can also be an emergency fund. Again, you have your true emergency fund, but then you also have like a secondary emergency fund that you're acting right now as your first apartment. And this is a really important part when it comes to mindset reminders. It isn't about maximizing every penny. It's about using your money to build freedom, confidence, and optionality in your life. You're already playing the long game by investing and doing really, really well. So don't let analysis paralysis stall your motion. You're already doing good things. Just keep that momentum going. Keep working hard. This inheritance is a real blessing to you that's going to allow you to set yourself up even better. And the nice thing is you were already set up pretty damn well. So best of luck to you. No matter what you decide, I'm sure you're going to do fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love about the Fi Guys, right? Chris just gave some of the most practical advice I think I've ever heard, right? Not just dealing with the money side, but also the human aspect of it. And I love the idea that's like, hey, take 500 to 1,000, get something that you enjoy, right? It's not all about living for the future. We have to also live for today. And that's one of the things that most financial professionals don't talk about. They always forget about today. So don't forget to live for today and to plan for tomorrow. Thank you for writing in, and we hope that that helps. Next, we're going to be moving on to our Win of the Week segment. This is where we talk about a win that we might have had over the week. Pretty self-explanatory. If you have a win of the week, feel free to drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Chris, what's your win of the week this week?
My win of the week is kind of fun. My wife and I, we've been accumulating credit card points for years now. And right now we're planning some pretty big trips. Bryn's going to be taking about 3 weeks to a month off in between moving her transition from moving to Arizona to California. So during that time, we're looking at what trips can we go on? What can we do for fun? We want to go visit some friends that we haven't seen in a while. So we were accumulating all of our points, and we went to our spreadsheet to see how many points do we have in credit card points, hotel points, airline points. And we actually have over 1 million points on credit cards right now, which is just completely crazy. So we're already planning a trip for next month to go visit some friends and stuff. It looks like we're going to be able to do that majority on points. And we're also going to save a lot of those points because we want to do Australia in 2026 and do a few weeks there. Pretty damn cool to like hit that million point mark.
Crazy. My goodness. Keep
but here's
going,
the big
please.
thing, right? Is that a lot of people I've met are like, I have all these points and I want to keep them. And that's not the point of living, right? So right now we have all these points, and unlike investing, unlike money, when you have money, you have the ability to invest that money to have the propensity to grow. With points, you don't have that ability to invest them. They're only going to dissipate. So when I get points, it's like, all right, how can I use this strategically and to the best of my ability to have as much fun as I can right now? That's why I love credit card hacking, because sometimes it's really hard to spend hard-earned money, but it's really easy to spend points because it's like, if I don't use them, they're just going to lose value. So we're going to have some fun trips planned up with the 1 million points that we have.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And I'm sure we'll talk more about credit cards in the future and points and all that fun stuff. But my win of the week is, if you remember last week, there was this job that I really wanted to get, and I didn't think I was 100% qualified for, but I have some great experience in that. And I have a unique advantage to everyone else applying for this job. So I decided to print out my resume and, walk in and introduce myself, right? That was last week's win of the week. Well, this week's win of the week is I got a call back actually on my interview, and I got a phone interview, and it was supposed to last like 5-10 minutes. We ended up talking for almost 30 minutes, and I believe it went well. Oh, you get off the phone, you're like, oh, that was great. I was on fire. Everything was great. But at the same time, it's like, was that what they were looking for? And it's like, you don't know till you know. That was last Thursday. So I'm going to count it as this Thursday. I'm going to count that as my win of the week. And hopefully I get a call back here in the coming days. I know the weekend's coming up, so probably won't hear anything Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but is what it is. So fingers crossed. I get to the next round of interviews, because this would be a huge opportunity, and I am over the moon. But I'm going to keep hunting, and I'm not going to keep my hopes up too high. I'm going to keep hunting, and I'm not going to get satisfied just yet. But yeah, that's That's my win of the week.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on that. And thank you so much to our listeners for listening in. Please stick around for the rest of the FI Crash Course. This was just, or on Mondays was just the first episode. This next coming Monday, we're going to be talking about all the numbers and the step-by-step process that people need in order to get to where they want to go. That's going to be a pretty in-depth. I think we're probably going to make that into a two-parter just because of how in-depth that is. But until then, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, share the FI Guys with a friend. Bring someone along for the journey of financial independence. Bring them along for the FI Crash Course. Someone that you have an ability to bounce ideas off of. To say, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? What can we do to get us there quicker? Someone to bounce your ideas of what your why is off of to figure out, is this in the ballpark? And of course, only you can answer that, but having somebody as a sounding board will really be helpful for you. So until next Monday, I'm Chris. He's Dominic. We're the FI Guys. We'll see you then. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.